I think part of our empowerment of building community, parents have to understand that they have the power in the numbers for change. And if there's something that they're not happy with, they can do something about it.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. Heed the Children is an initiative of the nonprofit organization Leap Forward. From their website, Heed the Children is described as a movement of everyday people committed to the protection of children from the destructive effects of smartphones and social media and the effects that they're having on their mental and physical health. The recognition of the power of everyday people is something that I feel does not get celebrated enough. It reminds me of this quote from that cultural anthropologist icon, Margaret Mead, who said, "Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." So I love it because I'm looking at my guests today and they're all giving me thumbs up. We are all on the same page. I cannot wait to learn more about this petite powerhouse called Heed the Children. And today we get to talk to three members, Deja Wallerson, Katie Lau, and Sebastian Steinbach. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Hillary.
having us.
I'm so glad you're here. So, guys, I love a naming story. I think there's power in names. It goes way back because I had this copy of a book called What Shall We Name the Baby back in the 1980s by my bedside table. And I remember spending hours reading like definitions and histories of certain names. And the name Heed the Children sounds incredibly intentional to me. So, can you tell me the background of your name?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely intentional. So when we first gathered as a team, we came up with a name that was called Parents United. And it was in the effort to help parents really just see the pain and feel the harms and not feel alone in this journey. This technology is just constantly rapidly evolving, and we all didn't really know how to navigate and how it fits into our lives. So we began to realize that, at working with parents, working with schools, that the movement grew beyond it just being Parents United. It included different school administrators and community leaders and such. But our founder, Ronit Hertzfeld, just really helped us connect to a deeper vision. And that was that this is a movement that elevates a particular priority where our children really just putting forth their care and caring about their thrival. And so the word heed was just a much more causal, intentional word for us to pay attention and prioritize and just take action for the health and well-being of our children. So we are now Heed the Children.
And do you guys specialize primarily in issues surrounding tech, or is it a broad social umbrella that you guys are looking at?
For Heed the Children, we specifically look at tech and replacement of technology with non-tech activities and healthier tech.
So the mission of Heed the Children is to raise awareness to the numerous sufferings our children are experiencing due to their exposure to smartphones and social media, including depression, bullying, addiction, and difficulties with attention. You call out social media and smartphones as having destructive effects on children's mental and physical health. Why is social media so destructive to children's mental health?
So, since the introduction of smartphones, there's data that points to mental, emotional, and physical health concerns linked to social media. And this is due to the design features and algorithms, such as Instagram or TikTok, for example. They trigger dopamine, which is the area of the brain's reward center. So features such as likes and notifications, they bring very temporary moments of pleasure and satisfaction, and that can become addictive. the way gambling and drugs can. And then other specific issues, which you've named some of, and I will add to, are cyberbullying, exposure to harmful content, exposure to sexual predators, and lack of sleep, which children really need for their developing minds.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, I spent some time on the Heed the Children website. Is this 3-part action plan for families or individuals to do? I think awareness building is this incredibly important ongoing task, but we're kind of at a point in our digital growth as humanity, and our growth, that awareness is not enough. People are really looking for tools on their path forward. And I'm so appreciative of your specific breakdown of tools. And could one of you go over the 3 parts that you list on your website?
Yes, I'd love to do that. So there are 3 parts of our Heed the Children mission. Number 1 is to eliminate the use of unhealthy social technologies from our children's lives. And this is through education, like webinars, talks, sharing resources, and our pledge. So our pledge is where parents pledge to wait at least until age 16 to give a smartphone, or to minimize the exposure of harmful technologies if they have already been exposed. And number 2 is to replace these technologies with online and offline alternatives and to promote the best in our children. So, for example, we share alternatives to smartphones, weekly adventure learning, and also tech-free teen nights, and these are organized by parents. And number 3, our last one, is cultivation of community. So as you had shared earlier, Hillary, we are completely in alignment in empowering and building community through integrated cooperation and with a common belief of prioritizing our children's well-being.
I love how you recognize the importance of replacing. I think anybody who has struggled with any form of behavioral addiction or substance addiction or anything, to be, and I'm not saying that, a child is necessarily addicted to technology, but I think there's always better buy-in if, when we're taking away something, you're offering something in place of. So I love how the you guys focus on that as well. It's a really key component, rather than just kind of taking things away and saying figure it out. You really provide those supportive tools. Thank you. So when we come back, I am going to be asking the crew from Heed the Children a bit more about actionable tips and resources surrounding kids, smartphones, and social media.
At what age should I give my child a smartphone? How much screen time should I allow each day? What are the best filters to use on my family's devices? Sound familiar? These questions and more are answered at the Healthy Screen Habits website. We've curated the best articles, books, videos, and many other resources to help you figure out how you want to use technology in your life. Click on the awareness section to learn about the issues and dangers surrounding screen use. Then click on the tools page to download printables you can use with your family today, including the Healthy Screen Habits Family Technology Plan. Visit our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org for the resources and tools you need to get started.
I'm speaking with Deja Wallerson, Katie Lau, and Sebastian Steinbeck, all founding members of the organization Heed the Children. They are passionate about supporting children to develop self-esteem, curiosity, critical thinking, healthy social and peer interactions, and a connection with nature. So when I look at all of these components, I feel like this is like the recipe for a healthy human being. Like you guys have really boiled it down to just that's the perfect match. And you look at all of the things and it can seem a little overwhelming, because that's a tall order there. If parents are to kind of choose one area of those to start with, is there an area that is like kind of like a keystone for unlocking potential growth in all of these areas? Is there one area that you would recommend starting in?
I'd love to answer that, Hillary. Social media platforms are designed to do one thing, and that is to make us dependent on them. And so the keystone antidote for that really is independence. So give your kid a say in their lives, give them freedom to make choices, give them agency to have a say in how their day goes. Don't plan everything, don't plan every waking minute for them, because you know what? That actually is also making them and keeping them dependent. And if you want to foster critical thinking and so on, you want to give them a chance to have to do that. So in some way, I'm saying, remember how you grew up. Many of us got kicked out of the house after school and say, come back for dinner. And then guess what? We had to connect to ourselves and what are we curious about? And what's around us and what does nature have here? And hey, connect to our friends, be curious, try things, fail, and, come back up, build resilience, but also have our adventures and our triumphs, get to know who we are, build that self-esteem through our own experiences. And that is really what children need to grow up to be healthy, strong, and resilient humans. That'd be my recommendation. And it doesn't cost a lot either.
Yeah. If anything, it's free.
I know. Are the best things in life free? Maybe in this case, there's something to that.
Yeah. So I love that. I like your focus on kind of giving kids agency, create their own adventure, sort of. And it can be uncomfortable to watch and wait through the period where they're wandering around.
Exactly.
But I think when you take a deep dive into the creative process, you recognize that they're wandering around with what we might consider looking bored, or them complaining, I'm bored, is actually an incubationary period for creativity.
I love the way you frame that. Yep.
Yeah. So I think if we, as parents, we just remember, oh, good, they're bored, rather than feeling like it's a problem we have to fix.
It's really exactly how you say it. There is the pain of seeing them come with the faces and like, I'm bored. And like, there is an impulse to fix it for them. I have it. Many parents I speak to have it. And yet that is exactly the moment where we don't want to fix it for them because they are incredibly resilient. And you know what? It gets boring for them to be bored very quickly. I see that too consistently. And then they'll come up with the most amazing things that you could have never thought or prepared for them. And it's theirs. And then they know I can. And that's just beauty.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the challenges that I think I've been in this digital wellness pond for a long time at this point, but it can still be really hard to start conversations or bring up concerns surrounding kids and tech within our own social circles and families. I'm trying to tap into your guys' tool belt here. How do you recommend we bring both awareness to our social circles and loved ones, but how do we start those conversations? Do you guys have tools to do that?
Yes, so this is Deja again speaking. But we pretty much see it in a very simple light of just kind of coming from a place of transparency and leading with inquiry around, I don't know this terrain, or this is newly impacting my children in this way. And, just being very vulnerable about it and leading with curiosity and just asking those necessary questions. We have a resource list as well, that we have resources that can be shared. And, if conversations can begin by just sharing a particular article or something that has been shown about the data of social tech and asking other parents, how do you feel about the use of smartphones or the presence of social technology or even gaming? How does it live in your household? Have you introduced your children to smartphones, and did you notice a change? And just, it also begins with leading with yourself and sharing personal experiences that are occurring for you, because 9 times out of 10, we find out that we're actually not alone in this. And we have the obligation now at this point to kind of have those conversations across the room. And so just leading with inquiry there, and also with your children, like what makes a particular platform so popular? And I think coming from that space, that curious space, is really helpful in starting those kind of conversations.
I couldn't agree with you more as far as both in talking with, neighbors and fellow parents, but also with my own kids. Like there are times when I'm like, why? I like, why is this?
Mhm.
I don't get this. Why is this cool?
Right.
And kind of, yeah, coming from a place of inquiry and assuming positive intent, I think
Mhm.
is important too, so that we don't come across as finger pointing.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
love
just
that.
I just want to double click on the what Deja just said, and you resonated with Hillary, which is it is surprisingly easy to start conversations with other parents, in my experience, if you just ask a question like what are you concerned about with, like, and people start really sharing, and they have their own questions, and from these questions a ping pong effect happens, and easily fill an hour or two if you bring a couple people together. Parents know more than they know. Once we share that with each other, it's amazing how much everybody learns in this process. And about the children, I must very humbly say, when I started to actually ask them honestly about why this or that platform or game matters to them, without already knowing what I wanted them to land on, when it got real, I actually learned things I didn't know, and I saw how my default had been the finger wagging and the making technology just a bad thing, which they don't believe, they don't buy, and nothing will happen from it. But when I flipped it, yeah, again, it was humbling, but there was a beginning of an actual conversation, and that's the trust that we need to build with our kids if we want to keep that conversation going when it gets difficult later on, when they have the cyberbullying or other things happening to them. We want that trust, so we have to learn to listen to the
Right.
children.
Right. And I think to add to that, it can't just be one and done conversations. They
No,
have to be, it's like hydration. You cannot drink a gallon of water on Sunday and think you're going to be fine come Wednesday. You have to have little sips of water, So anytime we can just interject those conversations and just have those little sips of water, it leads to good hydration and better digital wellness.
I'm gonna come in here as well. I'm Katie, and all of us do lead parent groups, Heat the Children support groups. And these are regular meetings where parents bring in what's working, what's not working, what is the school policy that's working and not working, and this is where real change occurs. So I think part of our empowerment of building community, parents have to understand that they have the power in the numbers for change. And if there's something that they're not happy with, they can do something about it.
Right. It goes back to Margaret Mead, right? Never doubt the small
exactly.
group of people. I agree. Do you guys have any Katie touched on this earlier, but just to reiterate it because I think it's an important number. Do you have age recommendations for social media acquisition?
Yeah. Um, so what, 7 years ago, when the Wait Until Eighth started, really,
Mhm.
everybody in the space knows them. They were great pioneers in raising awareness among parents on this issue. What we knew then was really not much, but it was like probably 13 is a good limit, and not don't give it to them earlier. And so that's why, that became that Wait Until Eighth. Meanwhile, we know more. Like just earlier this year, the Surgeon General publicly stated that he's very concerned with children getting access to social media age 13, because that's smack in the middle of the most vulnerable times of their brain's development, where identity forms and belonging is shaky, and so like it's very dangerous to let them on these platforms. Um, how I understand the current research, there seems to be like a crystallization around like, yes, 16 is probably the earliest you want to give a smartphone. You might want to wait with social media even longer, where 18 could be the minimum there if we look at the optimal syncing with the brain's development. And of course, the research is evolving and getting stronger, but there's a lot of points that tell us, yeah, not before 16 if you can avoid it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to me to have noticed in the more we know, the more we tend to want to back out the technology and back out the social media access. Because like you said, 7 years ago, it was, 13. And I believe that kind of stems from a lot of the social media platforms saying, oh, you have to be
Exactly.
13 to use this platform.
I
And
believe so.
many parents understandably thought that that was a developmentally based guideline, which it's not. It was based on a Privacy and Protection Act that had been written in 1998. So dealing way before the technology that we're dealing today. So
Yeah.
that particular act is being rewritten and is trying to go through right now. That would be COPPA 2.0, and I've certainly covered that in the past. But going with social media, I think it's really interesting how we kind of went from 13 to 16 to now. You guys are pioneers. It's the first I've heard 18, but I'm thinking like, oh, that's very interesting, and having teens myself, it's going to, I understand why you say that. I think it's also a very tough sell, because I can tell you that a lot of their clubs and a lot of the stuff that they're actually working on to build college resumes, a lot of it comes from managing social media accounts. And so it's going to take a reframing and a rethinking about how we communicate with groups as a whole. So, but it's not to say it can't happen.
And we have to be realistic. By the way, the number 18 for social media that's not us having done the research and saying this must be it. It's really following what's going on currently. And that number I personally gleaned from Jonathan Haidt's work, who communicates very fervently about this issue. And that is what resonated as like, distinguishing smartphone social media, that seems to be a very smart move. And unfortunately, we also have to be realistic, or fortunately, while the recommendations to give access to smartphones have gone up, the reality is more and more younger kids have access to smartphones and social media. If you look at the last 6 years, it's not that people have waited more. No, if anything, they gave it earlier. And fifth graders get their smartphone as a graduation gift for middle school in large numbers. So the reality is very different. And so while we have this invitation to take the pledge to say, I wait until 16, which would be fantastic, we also know that for many parents, that's not the reality. And like, our movement really is for all parents. And we need to work with what we have and do the best we can. Where we all seem to unite on, parents with and without having given smartphones earlier or not, is this spark around, let's work together to create alternatives so they really don't even want to be on their phones, so they can have adventure in real life. That seems to touch everyone, and hopefully that helps us get everyone off their devices more and into real life.
Yeah, that's part of your replacement theory. And I do encourage parents to explore bridging devices, not necessarily smartphones, but devices that can offer communication tools and really be very good kind of training wheels for acquiring fully loaded smartphones later on. So we have to take a break, but when we come back, I am going to ask Heed the children for their healthy screen habit. Did you know that Healthy Screen Habits does workshops? For 2 days, we can come and guide students through an exploration of their own tech use and facilitate a research-based presentation bespoke to their own questions. 87.5% of the teens who participated in this workshop recorded a change in their tech use following participation. For more information, contact us at info@healthyscreenhabits.org. I'm speaking with Deja, Katie, and Sebastian today from the organization Heed the Children, an initiative of Leap Forward. And Katie, you spoke earlier about the parent groups and knowing that people are wanting tools to move forward and, express concerns with like-minded people. How might people get in contact with either starting a parent group or becoming a member?
Yes. So, through our own experiences, Sebastian, Deja, and I, of leading parent groups, we realized the potential of this and that people really need it. We've all benefited, whether it's our own families or other families. And so we have a starter guide that we would love for parents to have to start their own groups. And beyond the starter guide, we are offering monthly calls, support calls for parents that are passionate and interested in this, because we want to create a larger audience of conversation and engagement so we can work on initiatives together potentially. If you're interested in starting your own parent group, please log into heedthechildren.org and you can contact us there.
Wonderful. Okay. So, guys, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit. This is a tip or takeaway that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do you have one?
Yes, we do. This is Deja again. And each of us practice something that we call a screen time Shabbat, which is pretty much us creating just intentional downtime from screens and just switching them off for a period of time. So this could be, at the dinner table or around bedtime. And it's just really important to have that time to reconnect with your children, reconnect within your family. And it's really important for parents to kind of model these behaviors as well. So we'd like to offer that for all who are listening and hope it serves in the best way, again, to just continue to go back to reconnection between each other and selves and really helping our children thrive.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And what that reminds me of is actually an episode that I did with Tiffany Schlein, who is the author of the book 24/6, The Power of Unplugging One Day Per Week. And it's all about her family's practice of a tech Shabbat. That continues to be one of our most popular episodes. And in fact, in reflecting on this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slate that to play next week. So please subscribe to the podcast. Then we can go ahead and you can enjoy an encore presentation of that conversation next week. As always, you can find a complete transcript of this show and a link to any of the resources discussed by visiting the show notes for this episode. Do that by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the podcast button, and find this episode. Thank you, Heed the Children, so much for being here today. Thank you for your passion and your dedication to kids. And you are most definitely a small group of people who are changing the world. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.